Boop. Gotta boop the dog. Boop the dog. Welcome to the Boop the Dog podcast. I'm just kidding. This is Evan Movie Podcast. I'm your host today, Dylan Camacho. Caesar is right here. Also with us today, Caesar's owner, Price Bell.
Present.
Also here with us, Price Bell's owner, Mason Rector.
Yeah, I just smashed him in good disc golf. He can't possibly be my superior.
Now it's everywhere.
Oh boy.
Now it's known.
Now everyone has it.
Doesn't own anybody at the table, I don't think. Nathan.
He owns the hardware.
Yeah. Owner of the camera that
Yes.
you are watching us on? What?
Yeah.
You're watching us. That is a little bit of Inception, isn't it? Huh, I never thought about that. Anyway, guys, welcome to the show.
We're not talking about it.
We're not talking about Inception today. This 10 button would be being smashed already. Go watch our episode on Inception. Anyway, what are we talking about today, Price?
Tropic Thunder.
That's why I've been putting it off.
My movie Tropic Thunder. I will own it and I will wear it. Love that movie.
Okay, well, I feel like a lot of people have probably seen this movie. It was pretty popular in its time.
Yeah.
But it's probably worth going over a little bit about what this movie is.
Yeah, Mason, please explain to us.
Yeah, so basically
What
you
this
have
movie is.
a This Is Us type thing where all of these huge actors are playing other actors in this movie project that is in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
That is based back in the 60s. You have Ben Stiller, you have Robert Downey Jr., Jack Black, Jay Bruchamel.
Something like that,
yeah.
Anyways, ton of people in this movie.
Matthew McConaughey.
And things start to unravel when a plan goes awry, and they find that there's actual Vietnam militia, I guess, on this island.
Yeah, they're like a drug
Yeah.
cartel.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
drug
basically.
cartel that kind of hears.
Nathan, we need to meet up and just cut each other's hair or something. We're getting wild over here.
You guys should totally meet up and cut each other's hair.
Yeah, Same time though.
Do it like in Tim and Eric. Remember they're in the bathtub together? Just give the hair.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah, remember in Dave, whenever he's like washing his back in the bathtub or
Yeah,
something
like
like
acne scrub.
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
something.
And he's just like, oh, you've got to quit eating cheese. Or just... And we're back on the show, everybody. So, Mason, you were talking about Tropic Thunder?
Yeah, we were talking about how it was a drug cartel that had sort of found them out because of an explosion that happened. They had floated a little bit too close to the drug cartel's land, I guess. And then after that, it was all reality for the 4 stars that were supposed to be in this movie.
Yeah.
And now they were just playing for survival.
Hijinks
Which-
ensue.
They, at varying points, think that it's real and still think that it's like staged by
Yeah.
the director, who is blown up in a landmine right in front of them, and Ben Stiller is like playing with his head and like
corn
looking
syrup.
at
Yeah, it's just diddle.
really bloody tasting corn syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way that happens, I love it, because like he's like, all right, gentlemen, let's go, let's start, and then he presses on the light and he just goes, oh, and then like it's not even like a super loud explosion, it's just like, poof, and then like his body starts falling everywhere, and it's a real like muted explosion, which I thought was hilarious.
And then Jack Black's character is just like, yeah! And like then it cuts.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get into this, I'm gonna top off this discussion first. So we're gonna get this off the table. Yes, this movie obviously could not be made in the year 2020, and what Robert Downey Jr. I think was fine. Like I thought it was respectful as it could be, but still not in good taste.
Mm-hmm.
So let's knock that discussion off the table. It's
to me. So he does blackface in this movie.
Yes.
And to me, the point of it, because so much of the point of this movie is to make fun of like
Hollywood.
Tropes.
Hollywood
Yeah.
and the kind of method acting and stuff like that. Like his whole thing was making fun of method acting,
Like Daniel Day-Lewis
and like
was the first
taking
one I
it
thought
to
of.
the extreme of having a pigmentation surgery.
Yeah.
And not refusing to break character. I think at one point he says like he doesn't break character until he's doing the like a commentary for the DVD or something like that. So yeah, I thought it was fine, and they definitely do a decent job of pointing it out and just being like, you are being ridiculous and caricaturizing a whole group of people.
Yeah, because it's whoever the rapper is in there, like...
No one knows who that is.
Yeah.
I looked.
Forgot his name.
I forget his name. But, you know, the actually black person in the movie is sitting there and they're just like... Anytime Robert Downey Jr.'s character is just, like, trying to pick up for, like, black people in any circumstances or something, like, what? Your people? What do you mean? He's just always in the background as the extra commentary for that, so... it's pretty
At
meta.
one point, he's like holding him and like singing this theme song to the Jeffersons.
Yeah.
Like, it took us 400 years to rise to this.
Right.
We don't
And
throw
he's
that
like,
word
that's
around.
the theme song of the Jeffersons.
Just because it's a theme song doesn't mean it's not true. Yeah, like...
Because the actual black person says the N-word,
Yeah.
and Robert Downey Jr.'s like, you crossed the line,
Uh-huh.
man.
Yeah.
There's... It's really weird to say this, but Robert Downey Jr. doing blackface is strangely the most, I don't want to say entertaining exactly, but it's the most, eye-capturing part of the film. I don't know. It's the part that kept it grounded just enough to keep the tone fine throughout the film, which is weird, because we have Robert Downey Jr. doing a character doing blackface, but... Alright, whatever. So, yeah, listen, the method at the end of the day is still as rude as farting at a dinner table with all your bunch of strangers and family over, but it's like a quiet, silent one that you don't really smell until later, and then you're like, I think it might be this person. This is a weird metaphor. Anyway, we're going to move on from that. So, I want to get into the group, or get into the cast on this one, and just say, because this movie feels very much like it's some of its parts, right? Like, you have Jack Black doing his thing, you have Robert Downey Jr. doing his thing, Ben Stiller doing his thing, and they're just kind of progressing through, but it doesn't really feel like there's a natural plot per se. It's just kind of these characters go through a thing and then things happen. Less so than here's a story of all of this stuff.
Which is more of it's a comedy.
Right, and it's supposed to be more like that.
plot-driven movie.
Exactly. It's more so like put these characters in a scenario, hijinks ensue right from there. But overall, as a comedy, I don't really love it for the humor. It is one of those things where I remember why I like this movie, like parts of the movie that I liked and parts of the movie I didn't like. And I'm going to start right on Jack Black. Jack Black is just way into it.
I hated him.
Yeah, in this movie, it is
movie.
just miserable to watch, and it's just not fun. It didn't feel funny, but it was a very genuine, although exaggerated version of like an addict, though.
And it wasn't out of Jack Black's normal role. Like,
No,
that's
yeah.
the thing. Like, he
This is
does
a very
that.
typecasted
School
role
of
for
Rock.
him.
He's this eccentric, kind of wild. You would think he was on drugs in School of Rock too. It's just his character. But I think because of his that farting movie and like his complex with that, plus his drug addiction, it was just piled on for his exact character that I hated him.
People only like me for my farts.
Yeah. I only make people laugh. Which, I don't know. Easily my least favorite character. That's probably my
But you can kind of put him on the back burner. There's so much more to watch. Ben Stiller and Robert Downey Jr. steal the show.
Yeah, they're the main characters for sure.
Yeah.
Although, was it Tom Cruise that was the...
Yeah, Tom Cruise is the boss, right?
Who is that incredible.
Now, meanwhile...
He was my favorite thing to see on this watch through.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime it switched back to him, it's like, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I always have a strange feeling with comedies where I feel like my favorite characters are the complete other side characters, right? Like McConaughey and Tom Cruise, for me, were way more funny and entertaining than anything any of the guys were doing.
It was Danny McBride for me.
Oh,
the
McBride
explosives
too.
guy.
McBride is so awesome.
He was my favorite character, and he had 20 lines.
Right.
Like, maybe.
And McBride's always do it, like, he's just one of those people who is just like...
And like Hot Rod.
Yeah, he is the same person every single movie.
Every time.
I can't really fault him for that because I just gave Jack Black crap for it, but at the same time, I'm like, I just find, what's his face funnier than that?
Danny McBride.
McBride,
Danny McBride.
And that underlying TiVo joke was absolutely
The
incredible.
entire time.
Because McConaughey the whole time was not listening to
Total
Ben Stiller.
tone deaf, yeah.
And it's like, oh, you still don't have your TiVo? I'll get on that. He's like, but I'm in the jungle. He's like, I'm getting you TiVo.
Then he
No, it's in the
storms
contract.
into Les Grossman's office.
Yeah.
Read the contract, Les!
Yeah.
You told us we could have TiVo!
Then he starts talking about how he lets him die, he can get a jet, and they all start dancing, like, yeah, they get the jet. They hit the jet, and him
He
and
started
like,
playing apple bottom jeans. That was probably one of my favorites.
and Bill Hader's just behind
Yeah.
Tom Cruise the whole time, just like mimic him. Oh, I love
Another
everything about
monkey
it.
could do your job.
Yeah, literally. No, I mean it. though. Yeah. No, Cruise, to nobody's surprise, random action actors just have great comedy beats. Like, I don't know what it is about that.
I think it's the unexpected.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Because that is, like, that character, the fact that Tom Cruise did that character is so unexpected for him. Like, it's hard to imagine that he agreed to be such a ridiculous character, but he nails it.
Yeah. And good for him on it, man. And McConaughey's just great. Like, whatever, give me more McConaughey. And that, it's the side problem thing where I'm like, all right, this movie's great, but the rat. Again, man, I'm terrible.
Fantastic Mr.
Thank you.
Fox.
Fantastic Mr. Fox all over again from last week. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. But McConaughey, if I could just see a whole movie of his agency and his hijinks where he's screaming at agents and he's just, oh, you think you could take my person? You think you could take my agent from this? Yeah, God. Yeah, it's great.
But I think the main cast still does so well. If you just kind of ignore Jack Black, because I agree, I think he does get kind of grating.
Yeah.
He does have a little bit of an arc to him, but still, I still think he's pretty annoying on the large. But man, like I said earlier, Ben Stiller and Robert Downey Jr. steal the show, which Ben Stiller is actually my favorite in the movie. I thought he was hilarious. Him as Simple Jack. I don't know. Absolutely slayed
Simple
me.
Jack stuff, I was
so tuned out
When
for that.
they did the play and he was doing the Simple Jack stuff, he was like, "I'll see you in my head movies." I was like,
It actually makes me cringe.
Yeah.
Except, like, Ben Stiller was really good as long as he wasn't on screen as Simple Jack. Like I really did like him.
that was my favorite part.
I know,
thought
it's
it was
weird.
hilarious.
It's weird.
Because, like, it's so bad taste that it's funny. Like,
It is.
Like, there's no reason. Like, he thought he should be Oscar nominated for it.
They
Which
gave him that twig.
they gave him that
Yeah.
little twig. He's like, "Oh, they gave me an Oscar. Thank you." Then he meets a little Sasquatch
Twig
or whatever.
Uh-huh.
little half squat.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
half squatch.
Yeah.
And my favorite scene in the movie, though, well, probably my second, is when they come in to save Ben Stiller, and he's like doing his makeup, and he's already like
Just
he's deep
Stockholmed
in,
in.
and
Yeah.
little Squatch or whatever is like in the background, like dancing, tears apart. Robert Downey Jr. Oh,
So-
love that scene.
So I want to see like what you guys think. All right, so we've gone back and forth on the cast. We were
Okay.
pretty obvious on the fact that we like a lot of the other surrounding characters.
Agreed.
Do we all agree that these 4 or 5 people in the main group, do they make sense at all? Jay
What do you mean?
Baruchel and like Jack Black and that random black guy and Robert Downey Jr. Like,
Are you
is
talking
that
about that they're doing this movie
the
together?
the main 4 that are in the jungle together?
Yeah.
Because with how
Oh,
much
yeah.
star power they have in this entire movie, wouldn't you replace like some of these guys and plug them into that main drive?
Right.
Like, no offense to Jack Black, but would you not put maybe Bill Hader in there?
No,
Would you maybe-
this is 2008. They didn't have the star power like they do now. Like,
Yeah.
Bill
like
Hader?
Jack Black has billing above Robert Downey Jr. in this, which is incredible to think about.
We have to remember because this
Iron Man
is
had-
this 06?
This
This
wasn't
06 or
30
07.
years ago. This was just 10 years ago.
Yeah,
No, yeah, I know, but this. When did Tropic Thunder came out? Because that's a big difference.
it's like
Jay-
2008.
2000.
Jay
It's right
Baruchel.
before. Yeah. So.
Riddle me why they put 3 out of those 4 people in that main force.
All right,
is what
totally
I'm
agree with
getting
you.
at.
McConaughey has enough star power. He could have been a
it's like
lead.
There's so many other people. that
Tom
could have
Cruise
been there.
definitely could have, but I think that's against the point of what Tom Cruise
That's
was on
fine.
there. It's
I'm
like
fine with this
he
part.
was like he wants to be a character you don't even really notice. Robert Downey Jr. is before he goes on his crusade to be like one of the highest billing actors now because he had to come back on Marvel's curve before this. Yeah, I mean it's all in weird places. Jack Black being higher billed doesn't surprise me because if you're going from like School of Rock into all of these other
Yeah.
ones, so
Yeah, Shallow Hal.
Yeah.
Shallow was big. Orange County he was in. Like
He was
He's
on a
big
roll.
in the
as far as
late
comedy
90s,
actor
early
genres,
2000s.
that's his brick. So yeah, I mean if you look at
Saving
that,
Silverman.
yeah.
Was he in that?
Yeah, he's in Saving Silverman.
I don't
That
know.
movie's actually really funny. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
talk about
enjoy
that
it.
movie though. Yeah, no, it's weird. The star power shuffled around in a weird way. I'm with you though. Like you could have easily traded out an actor here, an actor there, and just switched this up. I don't know, but then I'm
It's
sitting
weirdly
here.
balanced, I think.
Right, because you don't want to have too much star power
No,
up front
you don't
because
need 4
you
front runners.
need that balance, right? You need to have people who are like up here and people who support in that low end and they just do their lines, but they're attractive enough to hold those side pieces,
Yeah.
right? if it's just 4 stars as the Avengers of comedy, you're trying to do too much. And that's probably why you don't see the Avengers in comedy, like just all that roster, because it's distracting to have too many people on there at once.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sure comedies just don't get the budget for that. I mean, they just wouldn't have.
I don't know. This movie seemed
This
very
budget,
expensive.
I mean, it is a joke on the movie within itself, like how expensive
Like,
the movie is.
all of the trailers at the beginning were really good, really funny. It introduced all of the characters really well.
I thought that was actually done great.
Yeah.
Like,
Tobey Maguire.
I did.
Yeah,
I
in the movie.
love. Honestly, it was one of the moments where
I couldn't remember if he was actually gonna be in the movie.
right.
So
you were waiting
like
for
I was
him.
just like, is this gonna be the best Tobey Maguire movie that we watch?
That's a very low bar. Very
And
Don't do it, Toby. We watched Great Gatsby. We watched Brothers. You think this is better?
Tropic Thunder, yeah, this is a better Maguire movie. I'll meet you halfway on that one.
Sure.
But no, it's fun. Like, it's funny. Some of these trailers, I legitimately like. I'm like, nah, I really kind of want to see that RDJ and Maguire movie. Like, I think they can do it better than Heath Ledger and
Jake
Gyllenhaal for
Yeah.
that one. Just put it in the Priest stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if you also noticed, but none of the songs in this were like original. Like even the songs
No,
were
not
kind
a
of
single one.
satirizing like the Vietnam movie
Oh, absolutely.
because it was like CCR, Rolling
Yeah,
Stones,
you
like
had,
even that I even got kind of a laugh out of because like that's exactly the song I would expect to come
Yeah.
from that,
Oh yeah.
which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, that opening with the choppers and I don't remember what was playing, but it was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is the beginning of any Vietnam era movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is exactly what they're going for.
Like that's the sound of helicopters, actually.
The CCR starts playing
Yeah.
as soon as they start
Yeah.
start playing. Yeah,
Uh,
you got something going.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so the only other bad thing, and I want to get it out of the way, the very ending really just like kind of rubbed me the wrong way, where they basically, I don't know, recited what they had earlier, and
In
it,
the
I was,
movie.
it was just so long and drawn out that I was like, okay, I get it, like it's just more satire in the very beginning of the film.
You're just meaning just the scene between Ben Stiller and Robert Downey Jr.
I mean, as soon as they're trying to leave the complex, from the time that they were starting to put the explosives on the bridge, to the moment that like Matthew McConaughey like throws that thing up, just like that guy
Tebow.
does with his
Tebow.
arms. Yeah,
He hits an RPG in the air with
Yes.
Tebow.
it was just this like, and I get that it was funny because even all the guys in the helicopter was like, "No, fuck off, let's go! Like we're not playing anymore." But it was just like this. Okay, I get it. They're gonna get away. Like just do it. Like you don't have to do the whole brotherly scene.
But they still had comedy there because, like,
Yeah,
I
it was
mean,
good.
really
Your
funny
feet are in
moment
water.
was when Ben Stiller's like, "I'm going back, guys. I'm going back." And then he goes back. He's like, "Start the chopper up coming!" And little
Yeah, that
squatches
part
on
was
his
good.
chest. And
Yeah,
then
that
he just
part was
throws
good.
him into the river.
But they also cut to like about 5 seconds of him crawling out of the river and then sitting there frustrated.
Right.
Just to
Yeah.
make sure that you know he did not kill a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which is very obvious, like a doll that he
Oh,
was.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
awful
yeah.
looking, but yeah. So most important thing about a comedy, though, like it's like, did the jokes land for you all? Like, did you all think like when they were going for jokes, like you laughed, or
Yeah. I thought it was pretty funny.
I felt it was like 40-60 for me. Like there were moments, and a lot of it's McConaughey again. Like McConaughey and Tom Cruise's stuff is always landing for me. Robert Downey Jr.'s like his comedy didn't land for me, but his character just kept me entertained during those segments.
but he's not like a comedic character.
No, exactly.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say that his aim was to be funny.
Right.
No.
But and that's kind of like the weird feeling I get from like the core part of this movie is that I'm like, all right, the core part of this comedy is this storyline right here, and I'm like, Ben Stiller's landing sometimes, and sometimes he doesn't do it for me at all. Like sometimes I'm just like, it's weird. You get this weird dynamic on like. He's either Happy Gilmore, like Ben Stiller to me, where he's just the attendant who chokes out grandmas to put them to sleep, or he's just too
forgot
corny
about that.
90s one. Yeah, that's my favorite Ben Stiller
That-
role.
that's a good role. Better dodgeball.
Yeah,
But my fingers hurt.
exactly. Like,
Well, now your back's gonna hurt because guess who just pulled lawn duty?
you will go to sleep or we'll put you to sleep, Grandma. There's this weird line where if you give him just too much of him, then it just like it totally takes me out of
And
it.
he directed this movie.
Mhm.
And I didn't
Yeah.
realize that till afterwards,
yeah.
and I actually sort of winced at that because I was like, man, that's why he had so much like playtime.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like I get it.
He was all over the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was like the hero that wasn't the hero that was the hero again at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
So like overall, it was like 40-60, which isn't exactly a great percentage for like what I want out of a comedy with that. So I think that's. I mean, we'll get into that more in scores and everything like that. But the jokes that did land, I remember thinking like, what was the one that stuck out? It's the whenever Ben Stiller is talking about whenever he adopted the Vietnamese kid, and he's like, oh yeah, I think they ran out of the good ones. And you see the one just like has like a bronze knife gun, like, or bronze fist knife. And he's just staring at him menacingly.
That was the most like off the wall joke too. Because like he had just done like talked to his agent or had a big like unravel.
He was on the phone.
Yeah, he was on the phone with him during that whole time, and it was like in that TiVo discussion. It just shows this angry Vietnamese child with a knife, and I was like, all right, so I think it's less is more for me with Ben Stiller. If you have him being like the assist, not being the main deliverer of the punchline, that's when I usually like him the most. But yeah, Jack Black did not land for me at all. He weighed this movie down for me so bad. Like, and
he used all his weight to weigh the movie down.
He did, man. He farted the movie out from the very beginning, and he just let it stink the entire time.
When I mean take out characters and plug other ones in, obviously he's the one to go.
Yeah.
But like kind of honing back, I agree with Dylan. I think that Danny McBride and whoever that armless guy was, they were really good at the beginning.
Nick
Nolte?
Nick Nolte. Yeah. I knew it. I was like, he looks way too young to be Nick Nolte.
Right, I know.
But I guess
after watching it from Warrior, where then it was just where
he has white hair in everything I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
But anyways, like all of the weird dynamic duos off of the main cast were really good.
Mm-hmm.
The McConaughey, the Tom Cruise, the Danny McBride, that.
Yeah.
But I swear to you guys, I think that the reason why I don't think that the main comedy hit with me was because it had 2 out of 4 people that I didn't even know hardly as the main 4. Like that black guy, like I said, I don't know who that is, and Jack Black, that Jay Bruchamel guy, he's only ever been in She's Out of My League.
But I mean, he wasn't there for comedy at all. He was there to be like drive the plot forward.
He was the transport for some of the comedy, like.
I think it was just supposed to be
and...
funny that they couldn't ever remember what his name was.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
He was a forgettable person. Yeah, and again, that's all just playing on what the idea of the movie was, which was to make fun of like just Hollywood and actors in general.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll agree. I think Robert Downey Jr. his whole part, he was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Easily. But as far as the comedy goes, I do think it landed for me more than it did for Dylan.
You as well, I'm guessing. You're just kind of nodding.
I don't know. I think it's pretty funny overall. It's a very quotable movie, which is one of those things where, like with Monty Python and the Holy Grail, it's like it's very quotable, which makes it better in retrospect. Same with the $1 Billion Movie. I think that's a very quotable movie, and quoting it is a lot funnier than watching it.
You have put up 2 ducks.
Now, I'm not saying that this one is like standing in league with those on my general opinion of those movies, but that is a factor in like just kind of how I view that movie. Is like anytime I think back of it, it's just going to be those specific scenes and like just those funny little quips and stuff like that. And overall, it's an okay movie though.
Yeah, I think it's totally. It's not worth your time.
I do agree. Jack Black is not great, but I also think Jack Black was given a character that was not going to be great. Like that's not like he wasn't gonna have a chance to knock it out of the park with this character. I don't think.
I agree. I mean that. When you're given that kind of backstory, I don't know who could make it funnier. That's all I saw with Jack Black was just the Tenacious D type character, and I personally was not the biggest fan of that one either. So that's probably.
He still did, I think, as well as he could with that role, because like I think he like even the mannerisms, some of the stuff he got, like I really liked when he was starting his withdrawals. Like there was one point where he's having a conversation and he kind of stops and like you can see him gritting his teeth and doing that. Like I thought that was. I mean,
no, I'll meet you halfway there. I'll say all things considered for like an addict performance, I thought the performance was actually really good. Like that part was good. As far as acting out like an addict's and behaviors and quirks and stuff like that, I remember thinking I'm like, no, I mean he's got that pretty spot on. Like credit to Jack Black, like his acting is good, but the comedy just was not there. And granted, the character probably shouldn't be written as that because it's supposed to be it's comedy it's like lowbrow comedy, and I think that's the problem is that like you have the comedy level that's up here, and then the comedy level that's just like the general masses one that you put out, which was just super relevant at that time. So just kind of kept pushing it a little too hard. I don't know. But anyway, let's talk about the shape of this movie, guys, because I'm interested on this one.
Let's do it.
If you haven't seen this segment before, fat, thick, perfectly thin. Damn it, I always mess that up. All right, so it's a thin movie, it's the opposite of Jack Black. If it's a fit movie, it's Robert Downey Jr.'s parts. If it's a fat movie, it's Jack Black parts again. Listen, you know the segment. All right, anyway, guys, so Bryce, you just go on in.
It's fit. I never noticed the runtime. I thought all the jokes landed for me. I mean, I think like the main cast is there just to drive the plot forward, and everybody else is just for jokes. Like Danny McBride's just a joke, McConaughey's a joke, Tom Cruise is a joke, and they all are given their time to shine, and nobody's there for too long, which makes it better. And they let the side characters shine as well as the main cast. So definitely going with it.
How long was this movie?
2 hours and 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
It's
Okay.
2 hours?
Yeah, it's a 2 hour movie.
I would not have guessed that.
All
I
right.
checked. I watched half of it last night, half of it today.
So I'm not sure if the
It
director-
wasn't that movie's
I don't know
fault.
why you do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't the movie's fault.
Oh,
So I guess the director's cut's not that much longer because I could only get the director's cut, but I think it was only like 2:10 or something like that. So maybe 8 more
the
minutes.
director's in the movie, so he's all like,
Yeah, right. So I probably just saw more Ben Stiller, which is why I'm like, damn it, Stiller, you could have cut this. This movie's fat for me. Mostly in this, I just think of it as like, all right, these jokes don't land. I would just cut. I would just cut all of Jack Black, honestly. Like,
Just make it a trio. walking
yeah,
through the
I would
woods.
make it
I
literally.
like how you keep saying that there were only 4 people.
Right, well,
There
there's
were
definitely 5.
people.
But it makes
you
sense
were
for the
just
joke.
playing into the forgettability of the.
Oh, Ben Stiller was like the extra guy that wasn't in the group, though.
Yeah, that
yeah.
wasn't
That's what I meant.
drifts
It was
off
like
for
there
a
was
while.
4 of them.
Okay. I
And
thought
then
you
we're
were
together
I thought
all
you were
the time.
deliberately pointing to the whole
No,
joke of them always forgetting.
I actually like that
Yeah,
idea
Kevin,
better.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I don't know. The jokes sometimes went on for way too long, or there were parts that just were jokes that didn't land, and it's easier for me to just cut out for comedy because I'm like, if I don't find it funny, I would just take it out. Yeah, so I find it fat just because there's, a huge chunk of film that I didn't find particularly funny with it, so I'm just like, scene. Yeah, I'm not really other additions for that.
Yeah.
Mason.
I'm going to say it's a little bit chubby. The only part that I would cut, like I said, is at the end. I don't need all of that repeat stuff. I saw enough of that whole, like, come on, man, let's cut. No, are we cutting or are we not cutting? What are we doing?
You crying?
He can't cry right. Well, I'm crying right. Blah, blah, blah. And, like, that was funny, I guess, towards the beginning. But then I had to kind of sort of sit through it again at the end. And I'll agree that whenever Ben Stiller came back running over the bridge and the kid was stabbing him, like, that part was funny. But then whenever he was, like, laying in the pond, he was like, I can't feel my legs. And then Robert Downey Jr. was like, bro, your legs are in a pond. That's why. You're in a little puddle. You see, it's water. I get it. Let's just get to the fucking chopper. Let's get this movie going.
You know, it's literally like a 2-minute part.
I know,
And
and
you're
it's-
labeling
it's-
this movie as
it's-
chubby because of 2 minutes.
I'm going to say it's at least 4 minutes.
Look, you wanted a perfect 2-hour
Yeah.
movie.
Exactly. I told you it's 2 hours and 2 minutes.
Could have come right off the clock. Just
But yeah, that's it. It's not fat. It's more on the fit side. It's just, if I had to pick, I'm agreeing. You cut out the not so funny parts. And Jack Black at that time was known for those crazy quips and that crazy face that he always makes. Like Robin Williams was known for that
Whoa,
crazy,
all right.
that
Yeah.
same type role. I get that.
Yeah, it's not-
That's for the times. I get it, but not funny to me. So
Yeah.
Not funny.
Boo!
I'd call this one pretty fit. I do think, to me, the opening part where they're like going back and forth, that maybe lasted a little bit longer than I would have
Yeah.
wanted, but not that much longer.
yeah.
So I'm not gonna complain too much about it. I think overall it's pretty solid.
Yeah. The best part about that beginning too was like whenever Danny McBride hit the
That's the
had the
signal.
jets come
Yeah.
in.
Because the director's like,
Yeah.
that's a signal, blow it up.
Why would him stomping and screaming ever be a signal for any of that?
And then that scene, that's when we first get Tom Cruise too, when he gets
Yeah.
called into the board meeting.
Most
He's like, who's the key grip in here?
Punch that man in the face.
he just takes it.
Sorry, boss.
The director.
No, what my favorite line of that was, one of them is when he says, like, I'm going to have my fist so far up your ass that every time you're going to speak, it's not to go past my wedding ring. And then at the very end, like, when he's done, like, his tirade or whatever, he's like, I'm out of here. Somebody get me a Diet Coke. And then he walks off. I don't know why I thought that was hilarious.
Who was the director? He looked like Russell Brand, but like
Oh
different.
gosh.
He was in the other guys, too.
He's in the other guys.
He's like the mark in that.
I forget the actor.
He definitely wasn't Russell
No.
Brand, but that's the name.
So he's like a British version of Russell Brand, but
Right.
Russell Brand.
Brand.
So it's Russell Brand.
He's more stereotypical British version of Russell Brand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget that guy's name, but he's
I have
been in
no
a couple
idea.
Not
things.
Michael Keaton, was it?
No, it's not Michael
You
Keaton.
said other guys. I was like, that's the only one I remember from the
No,
other
it's
guys.
definitely not Michael Keaton. But anyway, I guess let's get in the score. The battery's draining and we're here. So,
All right.
I'll go first. I'm gonna land at just an even 7 with this one. I think it's pretty good. I feel like I generally tend to rate comedies pretty low, but I think as comedies go,
Yeah.
as
Believe
comedies
me.
go, I think this one is pretty funny.
I know
Yeah.
I'm fighting an uphill battle here. Like, I'm the one that loves comedies the most out of this bunch.
it's true.
Which is, I mean, same way if you all pick a teen drama, you know I'm probably going to massacre it unless it's something
It starts
different.
at a 5 and works its way down.
Exactly. It has a stigma.
Yeah.
To me, Tom Cruise is the biggest reason why I would give this above the 6 that I might have otherwise given it, because it's so funny.
His dancing, like,
At the end,
and
that
everything.
part, that was awesome.
He's so hairy too.
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah,
see
yeah.
his
His back
I
is and
couldn't
everything.
stop looking at his hands. It's like he's got like fake hands on or something.
Yeah.
'Cause they're so beefy.
And did you guys see his butt in that pair of pants whenever he was
Uh-huh.
dancing? I mean, it was
Oh,
plump.
yeah.
All right.
It was huge. Yeah, I'll agree. I'm going to give this movie a 7.5. I've been trying to sit there and weigh it up to an 8 because I do think it was really funny. I do like comedies, but whenever I think of this type of movie with this, startup of a cast, I think of, like I said earlier, This Is the End.
Oh,
You
love
have
that
like
movie.
your Pineapple. You have all these
Love that
movies.
movie.
that, like,
James
but
Franco.
they all did them better.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not loads better. Superbad was great, but they didn't have a whole lot of huge stars in it.
I think This Is the End is a very good comparison.
Dude,
because
This Is the End is
because
like,
it's compared, like,
flooded
it's
with
it.
the
It is.
Hollywood lifestyle,
Yeah.
and it has just big actors using their own names and
Yeah.
personas. So
Yeah.
that's a very good
which
comparison.
I need to watch the movie again. I've been trying to for like a couple months.
I've got it on DVD if you want it,
I might.
like
But
2
yeah,
different DVDs.
7.5 for me. It's almost an 8. I almost want to give it an 8, but it's just really good. It's not super great.
Oh,
I'm gonna drop a little bit lower than that. I'm gonna go down to a 6.5 on mine. This one overall, just there's too much of it that doesn't wow me. Even though there are some jokes that are really funny and parts are entertaining, it's too much of a difference in there. Like if I didn't like 40% of the movie, that it doesn't make me laugh at any points on that one. It just feels like drags. And comedy, if you don't land the joke, then you don't have nothing else to fall back on. Even the performances are good, it doesn't feel like it's serving the genre well. So I just struggle with that. Yeah, plain and simple, 6.5. I mean, it does some good parts that make me laugh, and then some parts don't. Typical comedy review.
Yeah, it's true.
well, I was laughing the entire time. The jokes landed for me. I'm glad that there's not really a plot. I don't really care about the plot. It's all about the jokes. So I'm going. I've only given 110, and this is, I'm not sure what I'm saying.
Always comes up.
See, I can't decide between an 8 and an 8.5. I don't know. You all tell me which one should I pick, because I can justify.
For
say
you?
it's an 8.5.
8.5.
It's totally an 8.5.
Okay,
you love this
I
movie.
definitely agree with an 8.5. Like, I can justify both of them. I just couldn't. I had a hard time picking. The
This is
jokes
your bread
landed.
and
Like, I was cracking myself up. We were playing disc golf, and I was quoting some of it to Mason earlier of Tropic Thunder, namely the Ben Stiller parts. And I don't know. I could watch this movie all the time. Like, I watched it like a couple weeks ago before I picked it, and watched it again when we did it for this podcast. So I was very fit. I'm really in disbelief that it's 2 hours. I did not feel that at all most of the time.
yeah.
I very much feel 2 hour movies, but this one I thought was perfectly fit in my opinion. So yeah, 8.5 from me. But I tend to rank comedies higher, especially since I'm the only one that picks comedies. So it's the only
That's
time.
not true. I picked my favorite comedy of all time last week.
There might be another comedy about to show up.
Yes.
Yeah. I picked Brokeback Mountain. I
I'm
thought
ready
it was hilarious.
That movie
It's
was
hilariously bad.
humorously in some way.
Absolutely tank your average, because when we talk about it on the end of season podcast, that will definitely be brought up. There will be another movie brought up, and I know it's for somebody over here as
Do you
well.
realize you get
which
the
I will
Fountain the
justify.
one too?
Did I?
Yeah.
That movie was atrocious.
I know. As
Alright,
soon as I
guys.
watched it today.
Oh, sorry.
Doesn't matter. Keep
We're
it up. Keep it
going
up.
off
Keep it up.
you.
Keep it up. Yeah.
But it is
Oh,
Nathan's pick, and
Yeah.
he's going to be our last
We've
one of the
all three
rotation.
had a tanker for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I can talk about that later. But in last movie of this season is going to the bearded Wonder Man himself. So let's
No, not me.
let's
Not big
see
enough.
let's see what he's got for us.
So it will be a comedy.
Look, I thought I was the only one that was allowed to do those.
No.
We're mixing it up.
All right.
We're mixing it up here at the end. So what movie I'm going to be picking is What We Do in the Shadows.
That vampire movie?
Yes, it's a vampire movie.
There's a show on Hulu though, right?
There is a show.
Because I've watched that.
I've not watched any of it.
I don't know if it's
I'm going completely blind into this.
watched
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Has
Oh,
anybody
boy.
seen it?
I haven't seen
I
the movie.
haven't
I've
seen
seen the TV
I like
series.
this. Total blind pick for everybody.
We gotta wrap it up.
I like those. I like those a lot.
All right, well, make sure to tune in for Taika Waititi's What We Do in the Shadow next week, guys. Our battery is running out. Goodbye. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you like what